It's it seems like it wasn't a gloomy morning today. Waking up today was wonderful. I woke up feeling clear-headed, mentally free, unrestrained. This morning started like any other. I woke up, got out of bed, brushed my teeth, and then to start my day, I got a little boost of caffeine. There was a slight hiccup. The coffee maker stopped, but after trying it again, it worked and I was fine with that. After finishing my cup of coffee, it took slightly longer for the energy to get to me, but that was nothing out of the ordinary or anything I thought I needed to worry about. After finishing my cup of coffee, I went to the building that I would frequent. If I was to describe it, it's kind of like an office building, but instead of it being part of a workplace, if you have a job, you pay, but if you don't, then it's somewhere you can go for free. It's similar to the idea of a library. It's just an empty office building where you can go in and work on whatever you need to get done. But usually, even though it's a big building, most people have their own routine, and it's not that common to see somebody else down here. There's someone who sits close to the door so they can maybe read, catch up on work that they need to do, as well as check in on anybody who's coming in and making sure that everything is fine with them. Usually, whenever I go here, I'm kind of stopped at the door for a little bit because of how big my bag is, or at least the bag that I carry. I get stopped at the door a lot, even though I've been here for a long time. Every single day, I'm still greeted at the door, then a conversation ensues as I can see their eyes moving across the bag to see if there are any visible signs that would require them to kick me out. After finding nothing that would lead to that, they then allow me to go past the first floor. The first floor is empty, open, with less of a room style and more one big area with tables and rows and chairs on both sides. I don't know how many people they expected to come here at first because there's just so much space and most of it's empty. But I guess they have a reason for needing that much space. Maybe they even rent it out for events or something. I'm not sure. The first floor, other than the slightly awkward encounter at the door, isn't my favorite spot because although the chairs aren't the uncomfortable metal chairs that I've dealt with before, and even if they're okay, they're not what I prefer to sit down for a long time, especially how long it takes me to do my work. I don't know what else I can say other than I have to watch out for my posture now. There was an elevator, but I'm guessing that it was closed due to the fact that maintenance just wasn't worth it anymore. There's two sets of stairs. One set of stairs is on the left, and then there's another one on the right. And they have as well an automatic light switch that turns on as soon as you go through into the stairwell. I guess to save on bills because they're probably not in the best point money wise. I'm walking up the stairs, and I guess the couple of stretches that I did in order to keep my back straight and my posture well are actually paying off because climbing these sets of stairs feels easy and simple. I feel like every time I raise my leg, I can get past the whole set of stairs at once. No difficulty for me. Although, as I start getting closer to the top, the feeling does start to wear off as my muscles in my body start to slowly slow down until I go past the second set. And that's where I have to stop at the top of the stairs and then, after I rest for a little bit, continue to get to the top of the next set. Because there's two sets of stairs per floor, and I usually like the fourth floor because I haven't taken a thorough look at all the other floors, mostly because the chairs and the tables on the first floor through to the third floor don't feel as free and comfortable from what I can see as the chairs and the furniture on the fourth floor. And the fourth floor is also different in the way that it's made. It's kind of sectioned off with rooms that you can kind of go in with enough space to stretch your arms and not feel claustrophobic. It's slightly too cold, though, which is odd because outside it's very hot, and on the floors below they follow the same temperature as outside. And there is a fifth floor, but usually the fifth floor has a wet floor sign on it, so I just avoid it anyway and stay on the fourth floor. Though slightly chilly, so once I get to the floor, I have to make sure that I'm wearing a coat or a light jacket. The floor is an open pathway. There's no door to get to the fourth floor. The floor is carpeted with a pattern that seems like lines, mainly just gray, lighter gray, and even lighter gray. Just everything to do with gray. The walls are white. They're just painted white. They're not brick. Completely creaseless, no sign of texture from looking from afar. But out of all the rooms, I find that the place is just empty. No benches in the hallway, no other furniture aside from what was allotted for each room. Because of this, I just choose the first room since I've looked into the other ones and they look identical. But for some reason today, the first room was closed off. Instead of a wet floor sign like the fifth floor, it wasn't put or covered with a sign or anything else. It was just instead caution tape and a door that was locked, which was unusual because usually the other rooms, even though they have a door, the door itself doesn't actually lock. It's more just for a sense of isolation from the outside. Because, like I said, I think they were expecting a lot more people to come. So it was a little worrying for me because it is something different that I wasn't used to. I didn't feel like looking inside the room because inside each room there is a way to look inside of it. It's a small peephole that isn't large enough to make out any significant detail. And it's very high up. So if I was to try and get to it, I'd need a piece of furniture so that I could stand on it. Which the chairs are large, heavy, wheelless chairs. So unless you have a reason that you need to go there now, mostly you keep them where they are. And to put you off of the idea, I thought of this as just something normal. I walked past the room, went to the room next to it. The room, if I was to give a layout of it, it doesn't seem like it has the most stuff. It's kind of minimalist. There are three chairs on each side of a long table, as well as two that are at the end of the table, as well as the rooms themselves are in a 3 by 3 grid, similar to a tic tac toe board, with the lines being the empty hallways and the squares being the rooms. It was made specifically with functionality, just rooms, no water fountains, no restrooms, nothing like that. Just a brown fake wood table, chairs, nothing else in the room except the large bright light on the roof. And the ceiling is very bright. So I keep working and working, and as time passes me being unaware because I turned off the time feature for my laptop because I found that just looking at it makes me more anxious and less likely for me to complete anything. My only real time signals are whenever my body decides to signal to me that it's time to eat or drink something. And not wanting to leave a mess behind me inside my bag, aside from the laptop that I work on most of the time, a book that I read at most 10 minutes every day. Not long, just when I start to get bored, hoping to do something else. As well as some food, all disposable food, in the shape of bars that I can eat, finish, and then keep in my bag to throw away when I get home. I have a miniature vacuum so that I can clean up all the crumbs because I know they're already not doing that well because not many people come here, but I don't want them to have to shut it down because of something like ants or anything that can come from the crumbs. Usually I eat 2 bars and then I'm done, but I do bring six just in case. This time, when I finished my work, I felt a little more tired than usual at this point, so I decided it was time to have a break. During this break, though, I ate 4 of them. This was a slight surprise to me, but nothing that I haven't thought about before. After finishing this meal, if you can call it that, I continued with my work until once again I felt strangely hungry. It was fine the first time, but the second time it was odd for the same thing to happen twice in a row. I thought back to it, and it's not like I didn't eat anything yesterday, so it wasn't anything to do with that. There was no change in my schedule. I don't feel particularly ill. In contrast to that, I feel the best in the morning, but I still shook it off because what point would I have to worry about that? Now I felt really tired trying to keep my head up, ultimately nodding till I fell asleep. When I next opened my eyes, I decided that it was long enough being there. When I began to leave the room, I found the lights started flickering until finally they shut. I walked out of the room to find that all of the lights that were normally open at this time of day were shut. And this was something new because usually the lights stayed on all day at any time. This time I saw a different staircase, only three sets of stairs to get to the bottom instead of the normal six. Confused at this, I decided to follow it down and see when they added this. Reaching the bottom, my head suddenly burst in pain, but then a couple seconds later, I felt cold and pale, but still fine. This time I reached the counter, the person didn't even look at me. I reached the door, still not a single glance, which this was one of the most unusual things today, because usually the person would have at least glanced at my bag, greeted me, said goodbye, anything, but this time nothing. When I walked outside of the door, I stopped. It felt like my mind reset, and again, there I was inside of the building, next to the counter, and again, no response. No visual cue that the person wanted to strike up a conversation or noticed me in general. This time, when I went up to the fourth floor, I found that there was now caution tape on the fourth floor, which, being the most comfortable place for me, I just ignored it, walked into it, and this time the caution tape in front of the first room was gone. Looked inside, and I don't know how I could describe it. There I was, stretched across the floor, an injury to the head, as well as bruising on my elbow and knees. I was confused what was happening until I remembered what was going on. What happened, how when I woke up today, when I stretched the day before. The feeling that I was loose and free to move, the wet floor sign on the fifth floor, and my usual room having caution tape covering it, and the fact there was never another staircase.